far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that. We're going to take over that. The Gaza Strip has been a hellhole for people.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday said the U.S. will, quote, take over, unquote, the Gaza Strip and redevelop the Palestinian territory, potentially sending in troops. Senior U.S. correspondent Jihan Abdullah reports.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the White House to meet with Donald Trump this week was always going to be momentous. But no one knew he was going to announce this. Earlier in the day, I was in the Oval Office and I asked him several questions about what he'd been talking about, which is to remove Palestinians essentially from the Gaza Strip to Egypt and to Jordan while reconstruction takes place. He said it was for humanitarian purposes. He said it was the only way, and he insisted that Jordan and Egypt would agree to it, even though they had adamantly said the opposite.
The plan has drawn near universal condemnation from global leaders.
What does this mean for the Palestinians? It means obviously the end of their quest for a two-state solution. But legally speaking, international law is pretty clear that the forced displacement of people is not permissible, is illegal.
Saudi Arabia said it would not move towards establishing ties with Israel without the creation of a Palestinian state. The Saudi Foreign Ministry said on social media, quote, Saudi Arabia will continue its relentless efforts to establish an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, and will not establish diplomatic relations with Israel without that, unquote. From Europe, Germany said the expulsion of Palestinians from Gaza would be unacceptable. And France says Trump's proposal would destabilize the region.
Dangereuse pour la stabilité et pour le processus de paix.
From Gaza, one resident from Rafah told The National he first took Trump's comments sarcastically, even laughing. He told The National, our people have endured every kind of weapon and method of destruction, starvation, demolition, and siege. Yet we have remained steadfast and resilient. The proof of that is here in northern Gaza and Jabalia, where despite being besieged, displaced, starved, and killed, people have refused to abandon their land. Meanwhile, 2 weeks into a ceasefire, residents of northern Gaza say they're yet to receive aid, and reconstruction efforts are slow. Last week, more than 500,000 Gazans returned to the north of the enclave, some telling The National they struggled to find a place to pitch a tent. Our correspondent in Gaza, Rakan Abdurrahman, reports.
People desperately seek any shelter to protect their children from the cold and stray animals. Many families decided to return to southern Gaza as there is no water and have to walk hours to fill a gallon of water for drinking. People there are hoping more aid trucks will reach them to meet their needs and end their suffering that lasts over 15 months.
In Syria, the cabinet is due for a reshuffle under interim president and HTS leader Ahmed al-Shara, sources told The National. The cabinet change comes after the U.S. made clear conditions for improvements to its relationship with post-Bashar al-Assad Syria. Correspondent Khalid Yaqub Awais reports.
Mr. al-Shara has moved quickly in the last several weeks to consolidate his power and gain at least regional legitimacy for the new rule in Syria. But still, it's not clear whether Mr. Sharia would, for example, remove one of the most controversial ministers, who is the justice minister. Purportedly, there was a video from 2015 that circulated last month showing the justice minister overseeing an execution of a woman in northern Syria. Mr. al-Shara, however, has to balance several currents in his power base, but his actual public statements and speeches have been tending toward moderation. Whether this moderation will be reflected in the upcoming planned change in the government remains to be seen.
That's all for this morning's headlines. You can follow these stories and more at thenationalnews.com. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.